News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right. Welcome back. It is the Unofficial 40 right here on Soonerscoop.com. I think Eddie is like freaked out every time I do the opening because my voice won't go that high anymore. I don't know what happened. It's just like, it's weird. Ever since I got that upper, what is that, Josh? Endoscopy? Endoscopy. Anyway, I think they broke something in there. Anyway, welcome. It is the Unofficial 40. We are here. Joining us to start off is the normal crew, Josh, Eddie, and Bob, and myself, Carey Murdoch. Plenty to get to today. Iowa State is coming up this week. The media is over. We had our first week without offensive and defensive coordinators. And as I've said, people ask me, like, why is he doing that? That seems weird. I'm not giving Brent any shit about media. I mean, he's been fantastic. It is what it is. The offensive, I think everybody would have liked to ask about the running backs. That just means Brent, he went 45 minutes yesterday, and he had to talk about the running backs. And there was a little bit of an awkward question. If you listen to the practice report earlier this week or yesterday with Eddie and Bob, they talked a little bit about that. Talked a lot about the running backs. But anyway, we're back to it. I promise not to bring up George's dating life today. No more chicken tender discussion. I think I'm done. I'm fed up with that myself. So, people make things out of hand. It gets out of hand. So, moving forward, guys. I don't know how you feel about Texas coming up next week. If the team is focused on Iowa State, is it a trap game? All that stuff. Bob, we can start with you because it seems like you don't get to do any of the YouTube shows. I mean, Eddie and George just taking over the world. So
that's good.
Love to hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the first time since Brent has been at OU that we can even say, is there a trap game on the horizon? How does he prepare for it? Because last season they never were in that spot.
Every game was a trap.
Well, they went from 3-0 to 3-3, so the trap game doesn't really exist if you're not like, the overwhelming favorite and looking ahead. Texas has more of the trap game with Kansas because that's going to be a really tough game. So, but we hear about how he prepares, and you hear from the players. This feels like a foot on the throat of a Matt Campbell team. Like, this is one of the first years you feel that could really be done. Instead of playing to a one-score possession late in the fourth quarter in Norman, we don't need 101 to 100 in the last 3 trips to OU. Let's go ahead and put a 21, 28-point type of victory here.
Well, and I know, there's been a little bit there. No, there definitely has been some Matt Campbell AI out there. I wonder, is the AI just driving all the coaches crazy? Like, to where they'll just say the craziest shit possible now because they know they're going to get mistaken for an AI version of themselves around at some point, like Ryan Day, Dan Lanning.
I would imagine they don't know about it. I bet
Ryan Day doesn't know about AI. He thinks Lou Holtz is still a powerful media
What a
figure.
Stupid rivalry that is. I saw Ohio State media are really up in arms about what Lou Holtz said. Like, who cares?
He's 86 in early signs of dementia.
Well, might get elected president.
Okay.
It seems like another one of these. Like, I've gotten to the point where I feel like social media and just media in general, between this and like the Travis Kelce stuff with Taylor Swift over the weekend.
Are you bothered by that?
No, I just don't care. I mean, I understand why people are obsessed with it. I just don't really get it.
Well, it's
just shoved down your throat.
Here's what happens.
24/7.
The Deion thing happened, and you have all these people that are now interested in college football that weren't before. The Taylor Swift thing happens. You have all the Swifties now trying to figure out what are the rules of football because we don't know what this is, but now we have to pay attention to it because Taylor's paying attention to it. So it's like I was talking about this the other day. It's like we're sitting in the conference room the other day, and George was like, "How come college football live is never on ESPN? Like, college football has gotten pushed further and further down the list of sports importance. Because, like, you look at ESPN,
College Football Live's on. It's just the show sucks now. I think that was mainly his point.
Because they don't invest in good college football people. Like Dan Orlovsky is basically been taken by ESPN. Like, they've taken Sam Ponder, they've taken Rutledge, Laura Rutledge. Like, they take all the good people from college football and stick it on their other stuff because they don't care about college football as much. Like, college football, it kind of needs this, or football in general kind of needs this. And college football, I think, needs Deion Sanders because I think it's like a lot of things. It's like the people that are the national media, like the PTI guys and stuff like that, they're not following college football that closely.
It's been years since I've watched PTI, so that probably tells you everything you need to know.
But I'm just saying they're the national media. They're the voices that the big networks are putting out. You think
I just don't think
Colin
anybody
Cowherd barely watches college. He watches USC, and that's about it.
Yeah, nobody.
And then he makes a lot of grandiose statements about the rest of college football.
Yeah, and people get up in arms about it. I don't understand
because there's
why
no other voice talking about college
there are
football.
Voices. They're on YouTube. They're on these podcasts.
Well, there's Andy Staples.
It's these types of.
Right.
It's gotten more centralized. It's gotten more local.
I'm
as far as
happy to
coverage
take
goes.
advantage of that, but I'm just saying, don't get pissed off because people that don't really follow football are watching it and paying attention to it now. It's only good for the sport.
And I'm not going to get mad at Deion after what he said about Cormani McLean. That was awesome.
I didn't see it. I hope he loses.
I
hope they lose every game
Colorado
by 50.
State kid?
No, that's the 5-star that they flipped from, or that Miami was supposed to get. He's like ranked in the top 3 in the entire country, and he's not playing. And Deion's like, that's on him. He needs to show up on time for meetings. He needs to go through his playbook. It's like, thank you. I liked it.
No, he's covering him for something. I don't believe anything that Deion says. He's only using Colorado to get as a gateway to get to whatever bigger job he wants to get to.
Yeah.
The guy's a scumbag, but I appreciate his content.
I don't think he's a scumbag.
Oh, he's 100% a scumbag. Look what Prime Prep was.
Prime Prep's going to be hard.
He was a He's a scumbag.
Yeah, Prime Prep.
But I appreciate the content.
Saying, he is not the all flash, no substance guy. I mean, he does have a little bit of old school football coach in him. I mean, he demands things of his players.
Well, I don't know about demands. I think he demands things of everybody that's not a star.
Well, I mean,
I think he's a good football coach. I don't think there could be any refutation of that at this point. He's a good football coach.
He's a great motivator. Is he a
good administrator? I don't know about that. I think that's where you get in the Prime Prep stuff and you really start to have
a better administrator
those conversations.
of his own bank account than he is probably of a football program.
Yes.
I'll tell you this. There's very, very few people that I would pull for a Lincoln Riley team coached against. I hope USC scores 100 this weekend.
I'm the other way. I don't mind. I want Colorado to beat USC. I want.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I know, but I'm going to be. I mean, Arizona State kept with them, and Arizona State. You think Arizona State's worse than Colorado?
I told Carey on Monday, Josh, watching that game Saturday night, watching the USC Arizona State game, it is amazing to me how similar. It is the exact same Oklahoma team that we watched for 5 years. I mean, no defense, even like to the point of missed tackles in spaces and zones defensively. It's the exact same thing.
Guys, could this be the Mike Stoops Texas game for Alex Grinch? Like, could this be the moment when it's just like enough?
I don't know if there's enough venom within the LA USC fan base yet. Because that thing had been building for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's all on. I mean, Lincoln's made so many mistakes recently with, proclaiming that his house was broken into several times and then banning the reporter that he almost like he's the one that looks like the bigger buffoon right now. Maybe not to the USC fans, but I think Lincoln knows this is not the time for me to be firing someone to satisfy the fans.
Guys, because that Arizona State team, for people that don't follow it, that's zombie Arizona State. Like they've got no one left. Like I don't know how. I wouldn't trust them to score 28 on like UCO right now. That is a bad football team, and I think Kenny Dillingham's really good. they have no bodies.
They got beat by Oklahoma State. I mean, and I think everybody realizes where that thing's at right now.
That's without Rashada on Saturday.
Yeah,
they
Bruce
had
Pine
Rashada
was throwing all over the yard against them.
Cowboys.
God bless. Bad.
Yeah.
So do you still want to?
guys-
You still think that they're going to put like
Yeah,
50 on
they're
Colorado
going to kill
and hold them?
Yeah, because I think that USC, what Colorado is about to go through, and you saw a little bit of it last week up in Eugene. I just think that what they don't have on the offensive line and defensive line is about to be just completely exposed by the rest of the Pac-12, which is actually, I think, a pretty damn good conference right now. Even the Washington States and Oregon States of the world, I think they're solid football teams.
They are. And I do think Colorado is lacking some things. And I will say this, USC has some talent on that defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, you go out and get Bear Alexander and those guys. They're good players.
I don't know if Barry Alexander
Eddie-
has the motor to, play a full 4 quarters. He doesn't seem to be that motivated.
Eddie, it should make you sad that Washington does not play Colorado. Washington could score legitimately 100 points on Colorado. They are incredible offensively.
Washington's really, really good. Michael Penix is amazing. It's unfortunate that he's not going to win the Heisman, like even be in contention for the Heisman Trophy unless Caleb gets hurt. Which, rightfully so. I mean, he's incredible. Some of the stuff that he did on Saturday night was like, oh yeah, God damn, he's good.
Yeah, there's no denying that when you watch him.
I mean, it's one of those things like you can tell OU fans for a year and a half been waiting for that moment to be like, we told you sucked. And they're like, no, really
it's
good.
never
Like,
coming.
there's no way to argue it.
Just to get this back into like the OU centric talk, I know that it's been talked about a bunch on the message board this week on the Crimson Corner, just as far as like benching Dillon Gabriel. What you dumb fucks don't understand is he's playing pretty good football right now. Like, I just find this argument, the only people that are talking about that are amongst themselves. Nobody seriously is
It's an
talking
echo
about
chamber, yeah.
Dillon Gabriel needing to be benched. All right, I feel better now.
He's number 5 in the country in QB rating. Guys ahead of him, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Sam Hartman, and Tyler Van Dyke.
It's just crazy to me. But I do think, with that said,
it's like saying that he was solely responsible for OU not blowing out Cincinnati because he missed a couple of throws.
and he did. Like, that's a fact. He missed a couple throws. I do think, though, that Farouk was pretty winded on that deep ball. With that said, he needs to play better. And I do think over the next 2 weeks, and really if you want to extend it into the next month with Iowa State this week, Texas obviously next week, bye week, Central Florida, Kansas. I mean, now you're talking about getting 8 games in, so we'll just go small sample size with the next 2 weeks. You're playing 2 pretty damn good defenses, and we'll see where this thing is at over the next 14 days. I think we'll really know what this offense is over the next 14, 15 days.
If Dillon does what he did last Saturday, they won't win both of those games. They might win one, but they won't win both. He's going to have to be better. We can't have phrases like, it was a weird game. Weird games don't happen for fifth-year quarterbacks. You have to have it all figured out at this point.
You hate Dillon so much.
I'm bullish on Dillon. I've been bullish but I don't like the phrase weird when you're a fifth-year quarterback.
Well, what's he supposed to say?
You shouldn't have those moments anymore.
I wouldn't want to talk to the media either.
I'm always torn with Gabriel because I feel like I have turned to where I'm defending him a little bit on the board. But, I mean, he has limitations. He just does. Like, there's only so far he's going to go. And, you know, he plays this game. I know everybody's already looking at Texas. So let's just put it in that context. You know, somebody asked me, like, how many games does Jackson Arnold win against Texas? How many games does Dillon Gabriel win against Texas? Out of 10, I was like 3 probably for Dillon Gabriel. They probably got a 30% chance to win that game. I think 3 in 10. Jackson Arnold, if you're talking about the scenario in which we live, in which Jackson Arnold has not taken any meaningful snaps in a real form of that offense in a scenario that mattered, it's 1 in 10. Like, odds are he's going to fall apart. Like, and it's not going to be his fault. He's a freshman playing against a really good defense, and Oklahoma doesn't seem to have a run game to support him. Like, I don't know what people think is going to happen there, like what magic is going to come out of that I just don't see that.
I will say this for Dillon Gabriel, and it's something he hasn't gotten credit for, I don't think. He does not have happy feet in the pocket this year. He is allowing his linemen to block around him and to continue to keep his eyes downfield to find an open receiver. I felt like last year he bailed too often. He didn't trust his offensive line. They're not perfect, and they might not get it done against Texas, and he's been sacked a few times, but I feel like he, at least in the pocket, is a lot more competent this year than he was a year ago. Shows a little bit more grit and sticking with it.
As shaky as they've been in run blocking, their pass blocking has been quite good, actually. I mean, he's had reason to be confident. They've been good in that role. Now, obviously Texas is a big step up, and Iowa State's going to throw some stuff at him. But to me, that's the interesting thing this week. It's because there's all this pressure of, he's got to make big plays, and that's got to be there more. But against Iowa State, that's exactly what Iowa State wants you to try to do. They want you to try to do too much rather than just work the ball down the field and be patient with what they're going to give you.
That's why going into this week with Iowa State, who is actually playing really good defense, I don't know if I should be surprised by that, considering what kind of the culture is in Ames. But last week you did it against two really good defensive linemen. This week you're going to do it against a little bit of a different look with the 3-3-5, even though Iowa State's thrown for defensive linemen a little bit more this season than maybe in years past. You're going to have an opportunity to be able to establish a run game, and you know that Jeff Lebby's going to want to do that. I think it's more contingent upon who's getting those carries.
Who's going to be the running back?
And who's going to be in the backfield with Dillon Gabriel than it is, more than it is, are they going to be willing to do that?
Well, and, by the way, having a look around at college football, having a look around at the Sooners, going to continue to do that, and recruiting as well. But our look around segment brought to you by Enjoy Vision. It's a fresh perspective. It's a look around, and our man, Eddie Radosevich, I might have to call him. I don't know about this, Josh. Is there any medical evidence? Can you ask your wife that having everything in dark mode hurts your vision, or am I just getting old?
I think you're just getting old. I'm not a doctor, but I could probably answer that.
The dark mode seems to not be it makes me squint to see white on black for some reason.
Yeah, I do everything in dark mode. I'm getting older and have glasses now, so that's part of my world.
He just put on glasses, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, if you're interested in LASIK, we can get you up to Oklahoma
Sell
City.
me, Eddie.
And I can tell you about Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, and it's not even close. Combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. All you got to do is, as the Unofficial 40 listener, and if you're interested in $400 off LASIK, go to enjoywithme.com and use promo code U40. That is the letter NJOY with me.com and promo code U40 for $400 off LASIK. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
All right. Thanks to Enjoy Vision. Okay, so the big talk this week, obviously the running back position, and not so much the position, but the rotation and what DeMarco Murray is doing. See, getting older. DeMarco Murray, Brent was asked about it at his press conference Tuesday, and he said it was about practice. And the follow-up was not so great about
it. Was the more I go back and look at it and listen to it, it was a call-out.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a call-out. It was a call-out of Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk to basically get your shit together on Monday through Thursday.
And it's what Tawi and Marcus did the week before, because it was Sawchuk and Barnes against Tulsa, and Walker and Major took that personal, practiced a lot better. Then they got the snaps against Cincinnati, and you're just hoping that'll wake up Barnes and Gavin to be who we all think they can be.
Well,
guys,
go ahead, Josh.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm too far from it. I struggle with that. Like, really, that 1 week, Barnes and Sawchuk simultaneously were that much better than everybody else, and then everything just reverted back to the way it doesn't feel that. I don't know. That just feels nonsensical to me. Like that those guys got it right, and then simultaneously Tawi and Major got it right the next week. Like, really? I don't know that. I realize that's the simplest explanation for it, but why is there no other position where it's deviating in this way? Like that's the only position where the practices fluctuate this extremely from one to the next.
Well, and Brent was pretty clear that this is a DeMarco Murray decision. Like,
Yeah.
It's not like he was saying, don't ask me, it's DeMarco that's doing it. But he was just like, he was pretty much conveying the message that DeMarco Murray is clearly sending the players, you have to practice well to play.
And it was clear he said you can't juggle 4 in a single game. That's not going to happen. Don't expect all 4 to have meaningful carries.
Yeah, which is like...
So basically it's a race to get somebody hurt in practice.
And it was kind of, I think, under the radar maybe a little bit last week, but like Dalen Smothers and Caleb Hicks didn't even travel to Cincinnati. So the 4 guys that you're thinking of at the running back position, those are the 4 that are in contention to get carries. And maybe it's going to be a little bit different at home, but you get the idea, especially in the early onset of a game.
What this does, though, is like the first person to go out at running back, you're like, oh, he's playing the whole game. And then whoever comes out after him is like, he's the other guy playing the whole game.
Yeah.
Like you're going to know who your running backs are going to be for an entire game based on the first couple of series. I mean, is that where we're at?
It's just weird to me, too, that, and Josh, I know that you've hit on this in the Monday Morning Idiot on the Crimson Corner. It just is crazy to me that they can go through spells like you saw in the first and second quarter. And granted, I do think that the hurry-up offense, it wore down Cincinnati a little bit. But in the second half, when Marcus Major really started to get going, and you probably don't see the points on the board because of penalties and things like that, they weren't able to take advantage of, got behind the sticks. It seemed like that was the first time all year that any running back had really found any rhythm. And they ran the ball at times, and I think that's the most frustrating thing is there are moments where they run the ball extremely well, and things seem like they're moving downhill. And then all of a sudden, for one reason or another, you look up and it's 2nd and 12, and you're completely out of sync.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, like it's just these little errors, like you said, Eddie. They'll start to find a rhythm. The offensive line will start working with Major because there was a play, and I can't remember. I think it was in the third quarter where OU's deep in their own field and they run to Barnes, and Barnes just kind of runs up the back of Tyler Guyton, where if he just waits for a second, there's a huge lane to bounce outside.
In which game?
In the Cincinnati game.
Well, Barnes didn't.
Barnes didn't play.
Barnes. I'm not Barnes. Not Barnes. Major.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's timing issues back there.
Yeah, like it's just like they can't get their timing right. And I thought the offensive line from an execution standpoint was much better against Cincinnati. They were just playing a much better level of competition, so you saw some problems. I thought Everett played pretty well. You can run down the list, but yeah, it's like you said, Eddie. They will get in to looking like a functional ground game, and then all of a sudden it's 2nd and 11 or 13, and against a good front like Cincinnati, that's pretty tough to say, hey, we're going to go run for 13 yards on 2 carries. Like that's not very likely. So you kind of have to make it work. But I mean, there's no question. Like they can't live like this with this run game because that offensive line is frankly too talented. I don't know any other way to say it. Like they should be playing better than they are. And I thought, like I said, against Cincinnati, they started to find it a little bit. And if they can build on that, hey, then you've got something. And like we said, against Iowa State, it's another good litmus test. It's a little step back from where Cincinnati is as far as personnel, but Heacock's going to have that group ready to go. And if Oklahoma's not sharp up front, they'll pay for it.
It's also crazy to me to look at the number of carries for each guy. It was a lot closer than I thought it was just initially. Like, do you know who leads OU in carries right now? Any of you?
I would assume it's Major.
It's Tawi Walker with 34.
34.
Marcus Major second with 32. Javonte Barnes is third with 28. I did not, 28 carries for Javonte Barnes is wild to me that he has that many. Doesn't feel like he's been out. And that's with one complete less game because he didn't even play against Cincinnati.
Yeah, and that's because, Josh has mentioned it before that when Barnes has had his chances, he hasn't broken through, and that's a little bit why we go back to the challenge, the message, like, hey, we're not just going to give this to you. Like, when we put you in, you got to start being who we thought you were supposed to be coming off the way that he finished last season. So, I don't know if it's surprising, but it's not as if Barnes hasn't had a good chunk of carries. He just has not done much with them.
The averages are similar to each other, though. I mean, Tawee Walker's averaging 5.2.
Yeah.
Marcus Majors at 4.2. Javonte Barnes is actually at 4.4.
It's funny with Tawee, the guy that we say, oh, he can't bust a big one. He's the guy averaging the most per carry. And I think that's largely built on Tawee's going to get 2 or 3. Like, he's just going to fight his way and burrow his way. So he's not going to have that -2. He's not going to have that -4. Like, he'll get back to the line of scrimmage. Like, and that's worth something. I mean, to keep you at least within reason on second down or third down or whatever it may be, as to where, we've seen Major and Barnes try to fix it and make the problem worse at times. Now, they're not bad about it. I'm not saying they're wildly off script or anything like that, but he just has a knack for kind of working his way through and getting whatever is available, and so there's
falling forward
to be said for that,
and falling forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I almost fell out of my chair when we were going over. George was just going over snap counts from the Cincinnati game. Josh is already shaking his head. How in the hell did Austin Stogner play 71 of the 75 snaps? Like, what is he giving you of those 71? And I like the kid. He's a good guy. I don't understand it.
I mean, he is, other than four of your starting offensive linemen, Guyton, Rame, Rouse, and Matire, and Dillon Gabriel. Those are the only players who played more snaps than Austin Stogner. How? How is that a thing? Because I don't even like you can think he's your best tight end. He's not discernibly better than Blake Smith, and so give Blake Smith 30 so Austin Stogner's more fresh. Whatever, however you want to look at that, fine, whatever.
And I still think he can be serviceable in the red zone, right? Like, he's a big body, throw it up to him, and they've yet to do that even.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the way they used him against Cincinnati. I thought that was kind of like keeping him in for some blocking stuff. Like, okay, and if nothing's clean, okay, sneak out. And he had that one. Well, I mean, it ended up being, Klatt highlighted it that Gabriel went with him and as a dump off instead of Freeman up the seam, or Jalil Farouk comes clean, 20 yards deeper than Stogner and would have had a big play himself. So it ended up being highlighted as a bad play, but it exemplifies, like, okay, Austin Stogner can be useful in that way, because he caught it, and the second he caught it, he was dead to rights, but he got 5 yards. You're moving the chains, you're doing what you need to do. But there's just no world where that guy, I mean, he had almost 3 times as many snaps as Nick Anderson. Nope. That's never going to be.
Now,
okay.
I will say, like, after the touchdown, the Nick Anderson touchdown there in the second quarter, end of the first quarter, he was on the bike a lot. I don't know if they showed him on TV. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's anything long term. I don't think
they did
he was necessarily
Anderson on the bike.
I don't think he was like hurt by any means, but maybe something was bugging him. And can you get away with that versus what they have down the road? I don't know how that was juggled. I mean, we talked to Nick Anderson on Monday. So.
Obviously, they're going to run certain plays out of certain sets, and there's obviously stuff that Dillon Gabriel likes to get to that needs to have a tight end on the field for whatever reason. To me, the simple answer is they just don't like anyone else but Austin Stogner.
They might like others. Maybe they just don't trust anybody else.
Well, I mean, they did have Blake Smith in the game when he was open down the middle when he was overthrown by Dillon Gabriel in the one pass. That was going to the, I don't know if that's the east ends of the side. The side, not
we're a north-south operation.
Are we? Okay.
I think so. Is that right?
I would say it was north.
So. North was with like the short end zone.
Without the students. The end zone without the students.
Yeah, the south was the student section.
Anyway, I just think they just don't have the personnel, man, at that position.
So, PFF, I want to make sure I've got this right. I don't know, PFF is not the gospel. I'm not saying they are. Its 3 lowest grades were Trace Ford, Jaron Kanek, and Austin Stogner. I thought Jaron Kanek might have had his best game at Oklahoma.
I was just going to say
all of that.
How much did he get dinged for that open field missed tackle?
I guess, man. I guess they didn't like the way he left the game. They also thought he was faking an injury. I don't know. That's hard to rationalize. But I mean, again, Stogner, they had Blake Smith as a 65 and Austin Stogner to 49.3. That, I mean, clearly the lowest grade on the offensive side of the football.
What was Blake's snap count? 4? Was he just the other
7.
4? 7.
He got 7. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
I mean, Gavin Freeman got 13. Guys, what's the story with Gavin Freeman? Like, all that hype in the preseason, and I kind of bought into it, and they don't seem to do anything dedicated to getting him the ball.
I just think it goes back to that idea of, I mean, they have so many bodies. It's like, who are you taking off the field? And I know they love what Drake does in the run game in terms of blocking. And then Andrella Anthony's coming on, and then Nick Anderson's coming on, and you're not going to take Farouk off the field. It just seems like they almost have too many bodies. Like, I know it's a good problem to have, but once that thing gets going, then you start talking about how are you getting guys in during drives when they're trying to go hurry up. It's almost like they have so many guys, they had to decide, like, do we want to continue trying to play fast, which, I think Jeff and all those guys would tell you is their identity, versus getting these guys in and slowing up a little bit.
Which is why the lack of 4 wide sets is confusing at this point.
And maybe this is stuff that, as you get into conference play, fingers crossed, you start seeing a little bit more. It's almost kind of like the running back thing. It is so bewildering that it's like, maybe we're just overthinking it, and maybe they're saving some stuff. But then again, you look up and it's a 3-point game against SMU in the fourth quarter, or it's a 4-point game in the third quarter against Cincinnati. And, at the same time, you got to give them credit for separating in the manner that they did, because that's one thing you can say offensively. Every time it feels like, it's like, okay, they need to put together a real good drive here. You have the 75-yard drive like they had on Saturday.
I think they've done it all year. They've done a nice job answering the. I mean, not like there's been that many tight moments for this. Yeah, but when they needed a drive, they found a way. And and not always like, oh, it's just a big deep ball. Like, they've put together drives and moved the ball like they needed to do. So I think that has been a underrated storyline. I think maybe this week we'll see a little bit more of that, because I mean, knowing Iowa State, they're going to muddy this up. They're going to drag OU down in the dirt a little bit, and it's going to be tough to score 40 and really separate yourself. But as bad as Iowa State is offensively, Oklahoma may be able to score 28 and pull away. Like, I mean, it's that kind of game.
There may be no bigger respect for Oklahoma defensively than, I think it's a 20-point spread this week.
Is
20,
it?
something like that, 20-21. I know it opened at like 18. And I think the over-under is like 46.
I was wondering if it was low 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because we know Iowa State. I mean, if I'm Iowa State, I'm running the clock to like 1 on every snap, like from the first quarter forward. Like, we're going to shorten this game.
Full K-State game plan, what they would do to
Absolutely.
OU, just keeping the ball out of Oklahoma's hands, basically.
Yep. Because, I mean, guys, you can tell with this offense, when they get in a rhythm, like, and they start to feel it, they're tough for anybody to stop. But when it gets a little herky-jerky and you start getting those penalties and they just aren't on schedule, it's a very, very different animal.
It is amazing, though. Like, when that thing gets going and Gabriel can start distributing the ball to whether it be Farouk on one side, and then he hits Andrella Anthony and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they just had 5 plays of 8+ yards and they're already in the red zone.
I don't think we saw that type of rhythm last year at all. I mean, last year was more like so much fear that they would go 3 and out in 20 seconds that you never really. And when they would have a good drive, you're like, okay, well, they finally did something, but then they would go back to 3 and out in 50 seconds. I mean,
and you only had one guy that you were truly trying to get the ball to.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Just chunk it up there, Martin.
And
go get it.
Now with,
Broncos need to do that more.
I think the hope that OU fans should have is that Andrella Anthony, who now has more catches at OU than he ever had at Michigan in 4 games.
Two more catches than he had in his entire career, 21-19.
I mean, I was never that high on Michigan's offense, but Andrella Anthony makes me continually lower the bar on anything innovative ever coming out of Michigan.
crazy.
I mean, besides the run game. But no, I mean, like now that Anthony's becoming kind of a guy that people are concerned with, and that Cincinnati definitely was concerned with him playing 10 yards off. A lot of people said it reminded them of that 2014 OU Baylor game in reverse. Now you wonder, can Jalil Farouk get free? Can he finally start to be? I mean, he did get 6 targets in that game. I think Anthony had 7. The difference was he only had 2 catches, and he had the overthrow that would have been a touchdown. And Drake Stoops is gonna you feel like Jeff Lebby knows how he wants to use Drake Stoops, either to pick up big first downs down the middle or around the goal line. And what I don't understand is he's kind of using Gavin Freeman the same way, and it just doesn't work as well. Like, for as fast as Gavin Freeman is, it doesn't seem like he can ever really find the edge. And that's kind of surprising to me. And maybe it's that, I don't know, maybe he's just looking for something and letting that string out. I don't know. I'd have to go back.
Sometimes I wonder if he trusts his speed almost too much. And I know that kind of sounds stupid, but
No, it's true.
you can get away with doing that against
he's
whoever.
like, if I just run as fast as I can to the sideline, I'm going to get that corner.
Yeah, and I'm sure like
people just take better
95% of the time for his entire life he's been able to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe get upfield a little bit more. It seems like he gets strung out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, I mean, that's how they're using Drake, too. Drake just is always looking to go forward, to get yards. Like, at what point can I, cut this off and get upfield? And you do. You feel like Gavin is just trying to outrace everybody to the sideline. So, anyway, back to the point. You're going to get Drake the ball a certain amount of ways. You're going to continue to get Andrel Anthony. Now, I know people are screaming, well, get Nick Anderson the ball more. Yes, I agree. Jalil Farouk and Nick Anderson, this should be the portion of the season where they really start to pile up some stats to me, if the offense is working like it should.
I agree. And it's kind of weird to say it, but it's like, I think that Nick Anderson might be number 2 behind Jalil Farouk in terms of guys that I want to see the football in his hands, just because of what he's been able to do.
People will say they want him number 1, behind Andrel Anthony.
Yeah, I mean,
although you're talking about
I'm talking
two guys that
like
kind of do
if
the
you're
same
going to
thing.
throw the ball down the field, Anthony's the guy. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
because of his speed, he's going to be open. But just in terms of chunking it 15, 20 yards and letting him go work, Nick Anderson looked damn good with the ball in his hands.
Well, because, guys, he almost scored on that first touch, the one that he ended up scoring later. He about did the same thing he did against Tulsa, where he broke through the 2 defenders and scored. It was almost the same play.
We've talked about it. We've mentioned it. I mean, it's amazing that we're sitting here, panning the running back room and
we're
just
sick people.
celebrating the wide receiver room because
That's a fact.
Because the wide receivers, they are the prime cuts of this Sooner roster. Just like prime shrimp is a fantastic way for you to score every night for dinner. Just boil up some water and throw these, pick out your flavor of shrimp and throw them in the water. Within 10 minutes, you'll have a restaurant quality meal. And you decide. You choose your own adventure. It could be the New Orleans-style barbecue, which is a favorite of the McQuistion house, the French Quarter Alfredo, which is a favorite of my house, the garlic herb butter, if you want to go for something a little bit lighter, or if you really like your Louisiana flavors, the Louisiana boil Cajun shrimp, and the signature Cajun seasoned shrimp. So go to primeshrimp.com, use that promo code U40, and you'll get 25% off your entire order of $50 or more. And they will take care of you. It's a great meal. The whole family will like it. Make sure you get enough. I mean, one serves 2 easily. Do you even feed the kids with 1 serving, Josh? Josh has muted himself.
Perfect. Drink.
I did mute myself. And no, that is, I mean, there's 2 packages for, like you're explaining, but in 1 package, I mean, that's absolutely going to feed Tiffany and I without a problem. And frankly, could feed, if we weren't selfish, we could feed our children, but they can't have any. They don't usually get to eat.
Well, and they do have the new packaging, so it's down to just 1 serving. It's cheaper, though, too. So it's about $10, $11 per thing. So get your orders in, primeshrimp.com, Prime, shrimp.com. Great sponsors of the pod. We appreciate them very much, and thank you guys for supporting them so much. All right, we welcome in George Stoya, who has made his way into the studio. George, we've kind of, I don't know if you've been listening side, but a lot of receiver, a lot of wide running back talk. But I know your focus this week is a lot with the defense, whether it be Danny Stutsman or Key Lawrence. And, it was interesting yesterday, Brent kind of bringing up Key Lawrence as kind of his great example of guys that have kind of grown up and become, off the field and on the field and become a bigger part of the defense.
Yeah, he's playing great, and I think we've all known that he's got great athletic ability. It's just more, when was it going to click for him? And you look at his career at OU, and that first season he's kind of thrown all over the place. Didn't really have a spot. He's playing some corner, doing some safety. Then last year he just wasn't really in the rotation, and I think a lot of that was just growth and maturity wasn't there. And then this year he's had to battle for that spot. So he's been great, and an interesting thing about him, I didn't realize he's had a different head coach 7 of the 8 years he's played football in the high school and college level. So he had 4 different head coaches in high school, and then obviously had Jeremy Pruitt his first year at Tennessee, Lincoln Riley his first year at Oklahoma, and then Brent these last 2 years. So this is the first time in his career that he's had the same head coach.
Been on the same defense.
It's amazing.
Kind of crazy.
I told George yesterday, I would have to think that you could probably count on 2 hands how many players that are playing Power 5 football have done that exact same thing. And it might even be 1 hand. I can't imagine that there's too many players that have changed every single year for the last, what would it have been, 7 before this past year?
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of the continuity. And also just, he talked last night at practice that, just the belief that Brent has put in him, sticking with him. I mean, he easily could have gone in the portal after last season. And so I think that just sticking with it, and he's a really good example of, somebody that is playing really good football that has, found his role within this team. And Marcus Stripling was another one. I think we all thought he was going to be somebody that entered the portal. I mean, he played, I think, 22 snaps.
Yeah.
On Saturday. So
it would seem like Danny's development, everybody goes, oh, yeah. I mean, he's coached by Brent Venables. Why wouldn't he? But I think that you could almost sell me on the idea that Brent's more proud in a way of guys like Key Lawrence and Marcus Stripling for sticking with it. Like when you talk about kind of the culture that he wants to build, the program that he wants to build, of course they want PJ Adebores and the Peyton Bowens of the world. And not to say that Key wasn't a very highly ranked kid coming out of high school, but just his, I guess, kind of 180 on what he's done to his career and kind of saving it and turning it into what could be a really good outcome. That seems like just the way that Brent talked about it yesterday, it makes you think that he's like extremely proud of that.
Yeah, and look, I think Brent, and it's kind of like we talked with Jaden Gibson earlier this year, like you can tell how much work Brent puts into people as people, like players as people. Like, I mean, I remember, it went all the way back to like, Josh, you remember this, like Lewis Baker. Like he was a guy that, had a lot of stuff happen in his life, was a guy that probably, was a little self-conscious maybe, off the field. But Brent like spent so much time building him up, and he wasn't like
who?
Lewis Baker.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't like a guy that was a superstar right away. I mean, and it was funny Brent talking about Brent loves people to eat food. I mean, like he wants players to eat, get bigger, get stronger, all that stuff. And people don't get it. Like people are really confused about that Sunday food line. Like how the line was going down Lindsay or whatever to get in the food line. Like what he's saying is guys are going in there to eat like lots of protein, rehab, recover.
They want people in there watching film is basically film, what it is.
But also
and being around the locker room.
Big part of it is, they want those guys to be developing their bodies, like work on it. It's just like the hydration stuff. He's insane about that stuff too. Like he takes every little thing and magnifies it, and it basically he's telling his players, if you care, we're going to know because you're hydrating or you're eating food on Sunday when the cafeteria is closed, like all that stuff.
And maybe a perfect example, and I don't want to give away too much on the story because I'm writing for it next week on Stutsman, but I think he's a really good example of some of that stuff, like him going and buying basically a projector screen to put in his house and have the linebackers over every night to watch film, which is happening. Like that has been confirmed.
Right.
That like he's having the linebackers over.
Kobe talked about it.
He acted like
It was no big deal.
Yeah,
He was like,
he was not like embarrassed about it, but the way you described it, he was like, "Oh, they're making too much out of this."
Yeah, but that to me is like wow, that's a pretty big deal to have that done.
It kind of all goes back to me to that stuff that we talked about a year ago when they were going through that low point and losing football games and losing one possession games. And you kind of wondered, like, I think that we talked about it on this podcast, just in terms of how much longer can Brent stand up there before he's basically just tuned out. And they're like, okay, this guy, we're not getting the results we want. Why would we buy into the culture? Like everything that has happened since the end of the season and into the first 4 weeks of this year, it tells you the exact opposite. Like, not only have some of these guys bought in, but they're preaching it, they're talking it, they're doing everything that you could be asked. And, how much of that is a product of the success that they're finding on the field? I think it all kind of goes into play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a look inside to kind of who Brent Venables is as a coach. I mean, it was like he was asked about the Notre Dame stuff the other day, and I think Guerin asked him the question, and he's like, "Was that something you talked about?" And he was like, "Yeah, I talked to myself about it because I'm the head coach." But just kind of the empathy he had for Notre Dame going through that, it was just interesting hearing him talk about that.
You could see like the wheels turning in the back of his mind too. Like, I better not say something that's going to get clickbaited.
I mean, he kind of I think he was like, yeah, that should never happen.
Right, and then he's like, oh shit,
yeah,
I can't say that.
Ryan Day's going to come, or he's going to have somebody. Lou Holtz is going to come after him.
Marcus Freeman.
That Chris Hassel clip that I sent you guys, I think is really funny.
That was funny.
He does a pretty good Lou.
Oh yeah. I saw that. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to all the stuff. Especially with Stutsman.
The other Stutsman story that I am doing today, I just did some numbers. I was looking into it because everybody's talking about him in the Butkus Award, whatever. So I went through and I listed all 51 of the guys that were on the watch list or whatever. Stutsman ranks 4th in tackles among the 51 and 2nd in tackles for loss with 8. And 2 of the guys in front of him are not Power 5 linebackers. There's a kid for Old Dominion. I forget his name, slipping in my mind right now. He has 66 tackles or something
That's
crazy
insane.
through 4 games.
Didn't you say like a quarter of them or like a third of them are tackles for loss too?
Yeah, he has like I think like maybe 10 tackles for loss out of the 60 or something. So it's whoever that kid is, he's really good, I guess. But
that's insane. Josh, just on a basis of what this thing has been defensively, is it better than everybody thought it was going to be? Like, and how much do you weigh that against the offenses that they've played? It's incredible to me, the turnaround that has happened. And I know that, they would tell you, Brent basically said it yesterday, they got a long way to go before they're going to be upper echelon of college football. But there are definitely foundations in place right now that, I mean, this is what people have been wanting for literally years, maybe even a decade.
Well, so much of it is the simple stuff, guys, that we know this defense hasn't accomplished in years, where if there's a tackle to be made, they make the tackle. Guys, one of the plays that I highlighted it in the Monday Morning Idiot was Makari Vickers coming up on that first down when they're running wide, just comes up and makes a tackle. I know it's the simplest thing in the world, but a freshman corner playing against a good back, there was... Like, we know 2-3 years ago, he breaks that and goes for 30 yards, and Oklahoma's setting up the field. 2 plays later, I think, was when was one of the Stutsman third down stops. Like, and so you had this moment where you kind of said, okay, like these are where these things pay off. You set up 2nd and 3 instead of 1st and 10, 30 yards downfield. So I just think you're seeing the fundamentals are so much better. I think, I had Rondell Bothroyd in my Hot 11, and some people were like, well, look at his stat line. You watch Rondell Bothroyd, he is always where he's supposed to be. Like, he does not put people in bad situations. He covers for his linebackers. Like, he is just a very sound football player, and it's not always going to be flashy or pretty, but he just does the right stuff. Now, where Brent Venables says, hey, look where this can go, is you watch PJ Adebaraway. There we go. I'm gonna
There
keep
it
working on
is. Yep.
You watch him come around the corner, and you're like, "Holy crap!" Like that play, guys. We haven't seen an OU defensive end that was capable of doing that kind of thing in a long time.
Bothroyd was talking about PJ last night, and he was almost like laughing at the idea of, he's like, I don't know what else to say. Like I wish I had the tools that he had. It's
By
just
the way,
crazy to hear a
I-
6-year guy say that about a freshman.
I have some inside baseball news for you guys. I don't know if you're going to like this or not. Mike Houck was asked to rule by some of the beat writers on whether or not to include periods with PJ as if to do initials. He said if someone talks about him, was his advice. If someone talks about him as PJ, do P period J period. But if you're just talking about him in an article, he thinks that how do you say his first? Adepuja.
Is that right?
Josh?
I think it's Adepoju.
Adepoju. He says Adepoju, I think, would prefer that we spell out his name.
I mean, I'm gonna call him.
Wait.
I'm gonna call him PJ, and that's how that's gonna go. So
So you're going against Adepuja's
I'll ask him. I'll ask PJ what he prefers.
in written form?
Yes, I would like you to.
I remember we asked Obo like that one time, and he said he didn't mind if. I think that is the norm. Like if you have someone with, in this case, a Nigerian name, and Obaniah was the same. He was Nigerian, right, Josh?
Yeah.
So we were talking to him, and he's like, are you okay if people write stories and call you Obo Okoronkwo? And he was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. And then I said, but wait, because I know a lot of people were just doing OBO. And I said, does it need to be OGBO? And he was like, of course.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, yeah.
I was on the beat then. I think.
So, I think that is stupid. I know people probably don't care, but it is kind of important to ask the players how they want to be written about. It's the least we can do. So, yeah,
I mean, it's definitely the least Eddie can do. Eddie's going to make sure he gets those names right.
For the lower thirds, yes. I mean, he has to write some. Eddie's a good writer. I like when Eddie writes. I think he's very.
I love the baseball stuff.
People don't.
A couple summers ago.
Oh, he killed it at the World Series that one year.
Mm-hmm.
Teams just need to be good, and I'll write about them.
Eddie got uncomfortable with all the praise there, so he became like Chandler all of a sudden.
No, I was looking at
catching strays.
Here's
Cubs playing right now.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh,
did you not see how they lost last night?
No, they were up 4-0 when
No,
we
they were
left
up
here.
6-0.
Oh my God.
Carey,
Let's talk Seiya Suzuki.
I'm sorry.
it's not. It's his fault. It's not his fault though. Like I genuinely feel bad for him because the Cubs wouldn't be in the spot that they're in if he's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last month and a half, 2 months. But yeah, that was. I think that was probably a top 5 most crushing Cubs loss that I've experienced in my lifetime last night.
Oof.
It was bad.
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel any better, my Astros are completely falling apart down
I'm
the stretch.
surprised
here.
that the Rangers are going to win that division. I just
Well,
kept waiting for them
guess
to
what?
fall apart.
When the Astros play the Rangers, it won't matter. They'll kill them again. So Rangers cannot beat the Astros. By the way, I was doing some research on is it Adam, the youngster for the Cubs, is his mom?
Oh, Pete Crow Armstrong.
Or Pete Crow Armstrong. Yeah, I was
PCA.
I was doing some research on his mom this morning. That's the fascinating. I'm fascinated by that story. The people, the kid from Little Big League.
The Cubs' number
His
one prospect
mom.
that got called up, Pete Crow Armstrong, badass center fielder, probably should have been in center field in the 8th inning last night. His mom, his real mom, is the mom from Little Big League.
Right.
Pretty cool.
I think I had her confused with the mom from The Rookie for a little bit.
The Dennis Quaid movie is Dennis.
No,
Quaid?
The Rookie.
No,
Rookie of the Year.
Oh, Rookie of the Year, the Cubs,
Yeah.
the actual Cubs movie.
Yes.
Yeah, overrated movie.
That's Little Big League is so much better.
Little Big League's
it's so
amazing.
wrong that it's not appreciated the same way.
My dad's had beers with the assistant coach in Denver before. At like the airport. Just ran into him.
Really?
Yeah. I forget the
That's
guy's
amazing.
name.
All right, Josh, let's talk a little bit of recruiting. I know, was there anything I mean, you guys are going to be doing your YouTube show tomorrow as well. We'll have the Iowa State opponent preview and lots more to come there and things that, I guess media was really good last night. So
Yeah, it was really good.
you guys will have some stuff to get to there.
I know we want to talk recruiting, but like the whole Iowa State thing, like I'm going to be interested to talk to one of their writers about it just in terms of
gambling thing?
Well, no, just like the Matt Campbell thing. Like he was the hottest coach in the country there for a while when Iowa State had it rolling, and I saw his name was thrown out there for Michigan State this morning. It's fascinating.
Is he
to
in a
me.
position where he might take it, like get out of there?
I don't know. I mean, I think that it eventually gets to a point where if you don't leave, you're going to end up getting fired if things don't get turned around. And I know that they're kind of going through it this year. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, I'm tweeting something.
we're all kind of doing things. We're all so busy with everything.
What are you tweeting?
The Danny Stutsman story.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, no, I'm interested too, Eddie, in Matt Campbell and what's going on. I mean, how many games are they going to win this year? I mean, we don't even have to get into this, but I mean that them and Oklahoma State might be two of the worst teams, if not the two worst teams in the Big 12, and that was just a kind of a shit show of a game last week.
Well, and
names.
Unfortunately, it's probably going to only get worse because of the quarterback injury. But Tech might be one of the most disappointing teams in the country.
Yeah.
And I know
wasn't
that
a buyer of Tech going into the season. I mean,
Well,
they did finish 7-6 last year.
and I know that we're probably a little bit biased on this because we love Joey McGuire, but that's probably why everybody thought they were going to be so good. Like he got the benefit of the doubt, did he not? Like they're going to be good.
But then the whole thing about, I know we lost our best defensive player to the draft, but we have all these other guys coming back, and it was just like, okay, yeah, but you were 7-6. So how good was that defense?
And
in
you
the
beat
first-
up on two really, and it helped their cause that they beat up on two really bad OU in Texas. Well, a bad Oklahoma team and a mediocre Texas team.
To me, the more
Well,
interesting.
and forgets that Oklahoma was running them off the field in
Yeah.
the first half in Lubbock last year before everything came apart.
Well, and it goes back to me, like, look at the teams that OU struggled with and lost last year. Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech. None of those teams are any good this year. Like, that, they lost to bad teams, and Iowa State was bad last year. Like, the Big 12 just hasn't gotten better as a collective. Oklahoma State fell off the map because of transfers. So, I mean, Texas held serve, and they look pretty good. Oklahoma was 6-7, and they look like one of the better teams in the conference this year. I mean,
I truly hope that neither team stubs their toe this week because next week's going to be a special, just in terms of, I don't know how the game's going to go, but the lead up and everything that goes into OU Texas, I think we've talked about
It'll
this
be
before.
incredible, yeah.
It's going to be for the first time in maybe, 10 years.
you
that
could have a top
both
10
teams
matchup
are going to be
possibly.
undefeated. The game day could be down there. It's just, it has the vibe of what could be a really, really special OU Texas on top of everything that goes into it being the final time in the Big 12 and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it'll be electric. I think there'll be some fighting in the stands and all that good stuff. So.
Good.
Let me ask you something, Josh. By the way, did you see the it's a quarterback for Florida State's name?
Jordan Travis?
Jordan Travis. Did you
Jordan
see
Travis.
the T-shirt drama with he and the Lion King? Or the Tiger King?
I just saw that he had people were saying that it was like, it looked like Clemson.
There were two tigers next to him. One was like orange and purple with purple stripes. And the other was like, what's LSU's Mike the Tiger or something like that?
Yes.
The other looked like the LSU Tiger. So he beat both the Tiger teams. And and the shirt was titled College King 2.0. It's a cool looking shirt. Like I would buy it if I were, young. But I guess the Tiger King is threatening to sue him for trademark infringement.
He's in prison.
Yes, from prison. He's vowed to allow
Good for
any
him.
lawyer that will represent him 80% of the profits made from the lawsuit.
I love it. Stay in the news.
But On3 actually reported on it.
You know the best way the Tiger King could stay in the news?
I'm afraid
Die?
of what you're about
You
to
sit
say.
in the electric chair. Let's be done with that. I'm done with him. He's a real scumbag.
He's the worst. He's a pandemic creation.
Yeah, that's true.
He's our scumbag, though.
We don't claim him.
here's the thing. They on 3, is it Pete Nakos? I don't think
I think that's how you say it.
I don't think the Greeks would have a Nakos.
Damian Lillard was just traded to the Bucks, by the way.
Ooh, my God.
Wow.
We had some Major
Wow.
League Baseball talk, so I figured I'd throw that.
Yeah,
It literally
no,
just
that's-
happened.
No, that's
Well, it was nice
Playing
of
for
Curtis
second
to come
in
in, Curtis Fitzpatrick to come in the studios yesterday and yell at you guys about you better vote for the new arena. He's a psychopath. Shout out, Curtis. No, but the Pete Nakos did some reporting. He went to the patent office or whatever, the database. He found out that the Tiger King trademark only applies to firearms. What was the middle one? It was something stupid, and skin creams. So that's the only way if Jordan Travis made a College King skin cream, maybe he'd have a case.
Carey, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
I don't either.
he
What?
got it. He got it made for firearms.
Yes, he has a Tiger King trademark that applies to firearms and skin cream, and nothing else. There's one other thing, and I can't remember what it is.
That sounds just crazy ass, like shithouse rat crazy to be him. Like that. That's just nutty enough. That firearms and skin cream are like, yeah, this is where I need to put that patent.
It's kind of like, what do I care about most personally? I want to make sure no one can put Tiger King or keep me from putting Tiger King on it. I really have to find out what that third thing is now.
It puts the lotion on the 45. Man, that's crazy.
I'm just typing in
Let's talk recruiting.
Tiger King firearms skin cream and see if that third one comes up. Here it is.
Keep us updated.
I know you're on the edge of your seat. Okay, here it is. Gaming machines. That was the other one. So you can't have a slot machine that's Tiger King unless he's getting a percentage of it. All right.
Okay, that one I could actually say.
Yeah,
that,
that
okay,
one
that
actually
that's-
makes some sense.
That makes some sense.
Because he lived in Oklahoma and he knew about casinos.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
Josh, let's move on to recruiting. Thank God. I know some of you were saying that.
Well, they didn't even hear it. They just fast forwarded.
Yes, they just fast forwarded. Real quick, though. Let's get I know you just fast forwarded because we're going to talk recruiting, but I bet you can't even tell if you look at me, like look at this leg and look at that one. I've got 2 completely different no-shows on today because my laundry came out mismatched. You can't even tell.
I do that all the time.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's great about no-shows is dadsoxy.com. Go check them out, DEADSOXY. See, I got the flowery one on that foot. I got the stripy one on the other foot, and nobody can tell. But I feel fantastic, even though they're mismatched. I don't even know until I think about it. So go check them out, DEADSOXY.com. Use that promo code SCOOP, and you'll get 25% off your entire order, even sale items. Great customer service. The fantastic website. I wish our website was as good as theirs. It's Sooner Scoop Store. I can't do two reads in one thing, but I just did. But great selection of socks. They've got the new athletics or the new colorways in all kinds of really cool. I don't know if you guys have gone on their website and looked at their new additions to the Crimson colorways, but really cool socks. They've got special 4-packs, 8-packs, whatever you need. But go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY, put in that promo code SCOOP. You get 25% off your entire order. And as always, stay soxy. All right, recruiting. Josh, I know Eddie was in here talking about, or you guys were kind of talking about some of the announcements that have been scheduled, and we've got. Is it one next Thursday? Is there a big one? I can't remember. Seemed like there was something that just came up yesterday where somebody said they were going to announce that was new.
Terry Bussey's announcing.
That was, oh yeah, we were just passing around the Bussey thing.
Yeah, Bussey announces tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. A&M.
That's definitely my read. Now, I will say this is kind of one of those deals where Emmett Jones having 5 guys already committed and 3 more already in 2025. He's shooting a shot. I mean, they're absolutely trying to do everything they can. I don't think it's even. I was talking to an A&M buddy the other day, and I don't even think it's so much about what's going to happen tomorrow. I think Oklahoma's pretty realistic that it's probably going to be A&M on September 28th. But if things go off the rails, and now with this Connor Wigman news, that feels more plausible than ever. Maybe they could be there and, kind of have the backdoor commitment in December with Terry Bussey. So, I think this is more about laying the groundwork than Oklahoma's expecting a decision to go their way on Thursday.
Josh, what's going on with Grant Bricks?
That is an amazing question that I think almost everybody involved in his recruitment would like to know the same for. This is a guy, I've said it over and over again, he is very low-key, very low communication, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's not ignoring coaches. He'll have – some of these guys want to talk to staffs almost every day. He's one time a week, and then he'll kind of get back to whoever. And it's not just Oklahoma or just Nebraska. It's just – that's how he's kind of operating with the three schools he's really looking at, which are Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Kansas State. I don't think there's been a lot of movement. I think it's just, when does he want to decide? I know about a month ago, it felt like he was going to maybe take one more trip to each. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. I feel like the clock's running out on that a little bit, and I don't mean that to say that anybody's going to rush him. He's a really high priority target for all three programs. They're going to wait as long as he wants to wait. But I do think that it's just getting to a point where what more information do you need? What do you need to see? What is unknown? I don't think Nebraska's slow start and Oklahoma's fast start have hurt, OU's chances here. But I keep saying it. I think it's head versus heart. I think he wants to stay close to home, but I think he knows Oklahoma's the best situation for him. So he just got to figure out what his priority is going to be. It's kind of crazy that it has some parallels to the Jordy Ball thing. When she made the same decision, left home, came to Oklahoma, and obviously that worked out really well for Jordy Ball, but ended up back at Nebraska. So I don't know if it plays the same way. I don't know if maybe he picks Nebraska from the outset or how that will go. But I just think, and it's so simple, but it's just a matter of him making the decision. I don't think there's any new information. I don't think anything's going to shift. He knows what he wants to know, and now it's just him kind of coming to whatever he's got to come to.
Anything else in terms of just general recruitment before we get to some of the guys that you saw? You saw a pair of Oklahoma commits last week, as well as Michael Fasusi, who I think that you have maybe done it like a magician job in the framing of that interview, because he does not look like as tall as he is. And then you look at the highlights and it's like, oh my God, this man is, he's a creature.
Well, with Fasusi, he's a 5-star. Just watching that dude move around and watching him and knowing how little football he's played so far, this is a guy still figuring it all out. And his body type is just so unusual because he's probably 295 right now, but he has ankles like a point guard. He's got all that ability to move and change direction, and it's super impressive. He is a special talent. But one thing I do want to highlight, because I'll forget it if I don't bring it up, is the expected official visit this weekend of Jordan Seaton, the big offensive lineman from IMG. For those that don't know, high school teammate of David Stone and Jaden Jackson, both currently committed to Oklahoma on the defensive line. This has been a guy that, from what I've heard, David Stone has been working on, trying to just get him to come up and take a visit. And, Bill Beedenbo's been involved. There was a point in time early in Seaton's recruitment where he was kind of talking about Oklahoma as his leader. It was that far down the road. Now, most kind of have him pegged to Ohio State right now, and I think that's probably the right choice. But he's visited Colorado. He's kind of a interesting guy that is kind of got some variance in how he could play out. But I do think he likes Oklahoma. Obviously, this weekend they'll be able to just shower him with attention. There's almost no one else there as far as official visits. If there is anyone, I have not yet confirmed it. Let's put it that way. So, again, Oklahoma's going to need to just really wow him this weekend, because I think this will if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be his second trip. He visited last March, when this staff had been together for about 3 months in 2022. So there's a lot of work to do, but it's a good sign to get him on campus, kind of see what happens. And again, continuing to further, enrich that relationship between OU and IMG, who we know is just going to have 15 Power 5 guys every single year.
Jaden Hardy, what'd you think of him, teammate?
Hardy is one of those guys. He's not flashy. He's not going to wow you. I mean, you get there, he's about 5'11", 175, 180. But all the dude did was make plays. I mean, he had 2 touchdown catches on the night. Of course, the long one, I'm not really zeroed in on him. I thought they were running clock, and it just didn't go the way I thought it would. But he really was he's impressive. Like, he's just one of those guys around the ball. And I think more than anything, talking to him after the game, he's one of those guys, and I know some of our board caught Jerry Hamilton talking about something, some player that he'd covered several years ago, and Jerry is talking about, I knew he wasn't going to be good because he didn't look me in the eye and he didn't shake my hand. I'm not usually a big proponent of that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of an old man way of looking at things. But Jaden Hardy almost made me uncomfortable during the interview with how much he was looking me in the eye. Like, almost I couldn't meet his eye. And I don't know if that says something about me or what, but he really is like just a guy that he gets it. He understands the way things work. Talking to him, he waited for me. I was actually interviewing Michael Fasusi, and he just stopped and started talking to, one of our another reporter, and we're just killing time because he knew I wanted to talk to him, and I hadn't set anything up. He understood, and he hung out, and then we did our interview, and he was really gracious. We were pretty much the last 2 people on the field, and it was I think he's one of those guys that his maturity is going to make a lot of sense to Brent Venables and those guys. Like, and again, he's a good football player. I don't want to say that he isn't. But I think he's more of he's so good between the ears that I think it makes up for, okay, he's not a 4'4" guy at DB, or he's not 210 pounds and going to run you over. He just kind of sees it in a special way. Now, I don't want to make this comparison because it's not fair, but kind of the way they talk about Peyton Bowen, like just being a guy who understands it, who gets football. Now, Peyton Bowen has more upside. Like, I want to be clear, but just that same sort of ability to process information.
Josh, I had a question about Reggie Powers. I saw he decommitted from Michigan State. I think literally maybe was it yesterday, but it was like a day after OU offered. Is there any connection to that, or is that just a coincidence?
Oh, no, there's definitely a connection. Now, I mean, we all know the primary reason for his decommitment, and for those that don't know, Oklahoma offered him, I want to say last Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. It was mid-late last week, and I think, again, Reggie Powers committed to Michigan State, decommitted last night amidst something that we all knew was going to happen and now has taken place on Wednesday, the firing of Mel Tucker at Michigan State after his off-field transgressions.
What'd he do?
Just get better lawyers than the Tiger King.
Yeah. So with Powers, I don't think there's any doubt that they are connected. I expect him to take an official visit to Norman here at some point in the next few weeks. I think that will happen. There's even a possibility for this weekend. He plays a Friday night game in Ohio. I don't know. We'll see if the timing of that can really work.
Helps with the night game. I mean, that is one of the advantages of not playing at 11 a.m.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Like I said, I mean, it's not like you're going to be strained to go get him from the airport. You don't have a bunch of guys coming in. You've got plenty of staff to handle that load. So, I mean, it's. I think it'd be fine. But it's just a matter of if that's how OU wants to set that up or not. What I will say is I think Oklahoma is a very realistic possibility, and I know people will kind of say, well, does this mean OU doesn't feel good about Michael Boganowski or that they're moving on from Michael Boganowski? None of that's true. they still really, really like Michael Boganowski. He still absolutely has that chance to go to Oklahoma. And I don't think they know any more than they did 2 weeks ago. It's just a matter of kind of like with Grant Bricks. I've heard talk Michael Boganowski is going to decide maybe by this weekend. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things, we've heard this from him before. Like, the deadline was coming and he was going to make a choice. And I think Oklahoma saw Reggie Powers and was like, he's really good. He's probably about to have to make a decision with what he's going to do with Michigan State when all that news broke. And Oklahoma would take Reggie Powers right now. If he wants to commit, they've got a spot for him. This isn't a plan B. This isn't a backup. This is a guy they like a lot. So I think there's one spot, and I think it's just going to be whoever they can get to, make their decision first is what that's going to come down to, which may possibly lead to Reggie Powers making that trip this weekend. So there's a lot of balls up in the air, but I don't think any of them are inherently negative for Oklahoma. I don't think they're out with Boganowski. I don't think they're trying to force his hand, although, I'm sure they're smart enough to recognize that he's going to see what that means and see that, hey, there needs to be some urgency in what you're doing here. Because, like I said, I think if Powers wanted to commit, they would take him, and I don't know what that would mean for Boganowski at that point. So we'll see where it goes, but I definitely think Powers is in play for Oklahoma.
Ivan Carey on? You went and saw him last Thursday. What'd you think of? His body is just unbelievable. I could not believe that. I remember seeing him at camp, but like with pads on, he almost looks a little bit bigger.
He is a guy that, you don't have to guess at who you're seeing. Like,
right.
Oh, that's the dude right there.
Is tight end in his future, or is that just completely stupid?
Coming into the game, I had been told, talking to some different sources, that it was very clear he was going to start at wide receiver. That's what Ivan wants to do. He was very adamant about that. Much in the same way that, we can remember having the Mark Andrews
I was just getting ready to say, that sounds familiar with a tight end from, or a wide receiver from Arizona.
And I went into that kind of thinking, okay, because, I went and saw Mark his senior year too, and it was like, you're a tight end, dude. Like, it was no insult on Mark. It was just Mark's big and broad, and like you were like that. You're going to be an unbelievable tight end if you'll buy into it. And they eventually got him to, obviously, and it's worked out pretty well for everybody. With Ivan, I don't know that I see that. Like, just watching him and this is not a guy that, like, Mark Andrews, if he got a chance to go bury a corner, he'd go bury a corner. That's not really what Ivan does. Like, Ivan's very content to, I'm just going to run you out of the play, and that's enough. And that's not on him. That's what his coaches are telling him to do. So it's not, like I said, I don't want to speak negatively of him. That's not the point. It's just I don't see a guy that I think has the demeanor to play tight end. And I know people say, oh, he's a flex tight end, it'll be fine. Yeah, that can work. I'm not saying it's completely impossible. I'm just saying he's going to have to adjust the way he looks at blocking, because right now it's not something he's that into. It's the best way I can think to say that. Now, as a receiver, huge catch radius, had a nice touchdown catch early in the game. He struggled with some drops in this game. Again, this is one of those reviews that's tough to give because sometimes guys just have a bad night. And I think that's what this was. He didn't have a great night. But at the same time, like, unlike a lot of receivers where I've seen games like that I knew, just like he, are good players. He never dropped his head, never had an attitude, went out and played defense. He is their punter, their holder, their outside linebacker, and plays receiver. Like, this is a kid that does everything, and the coaches clearly have a lot of faith and had a good attitude. Like I said, even, after the game, didn't play that well, just came and talked to me, and, and they won on a last second field goal, which again, he was the holder for. So, he could have been kind of negative about it. And he was like, no, I just kind of got to stay locked in during the game. And even when our running game's going well, I got to find ways to keep myself involved and find ways to help the team. And so he's a guy with the right mindset. I think he's had a bad night. And so, it's one of those deals where it's tough to give like, oh, this glowing review when there wasn't a lot of great to come out of that game. That's not going to be the game he wishes I would have come and seen and gotten video of and everything. But the physical skills are 100% there. I mean, like you said, Eddie, this guy is 6'5", 205, 210, arms for days. He's one of those guys that, like, when you watch him run, you don't realize how fast he is because he's such a big strider. But then you're like, oh, God, he just ate up 40 yards. Like, and you just can't really believe how quickly he did it. Because I want to say, I can't remember exactly where he finished, but he was a finalist in Texas 6A in the 110 hurdles last year. Like, this is a really good athlete. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So this is a no joke kind of athlete. But again, he's going to need time. He's going to have to figure out playing at the, at an OU kind of level. But I would expect him to be kind of a redshirt guy, kind of like Jaden Gibson. Maybe he gets out there for a few things early, let him see what happens. But I mean, if you told me in 2025 he had a role in this team, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
All right. I think we've exhausted Josh. Any other questions for Josh, I should say? I mean, is there a big recruiting weekend set at this point? I don't even know. Like, for guys that maybe are committed that haven't taken official visits?
It's kind of crazy to say it, but after this weekend, you're halfway through the home schedule.
I know.
They're not going to be back. They're not going to be back for a while.
Guys, an important note that I did forget mentioning Jordan Seaton, the IMG offensive lineman. David Stone's coming in this weekend too. He's going to be there, so he'll be there with Jordan all weekend and hanging out. And I don't know about Jaden Jackson, but that sure wouldn't surprise me either. So of course, that's not going to hurt OU to have that guy in his ear that Jordan knows and trusts.
And you said that David Stone is going to drop by Columbia, Missouri on the way to Norman. If you could see the disgust in Josh's face right now, it would be worth it.
Guys, we know the Crimson Corner is kind of my baby. I generally try and be good to the people there. I might be an asshole on Twitter sometimes, but on the board, I try and be a friendly guy. We had someone bring it over, and I'm not going to mention him by name. He knows who he is. And my response was just be better than this. Like, be better than thinking like Missouri fans just trolling Oklahoma fans because they're mad that Williams-Nwaneri kind of won't put OU to bed. Like, that's not on OU fans. Like, that, you get mad at your guy. I'm not advocating vigilante justice against Williams-Nwaneri. I'm just saying that's not OU fans' fault for the kid keeps wearing OU gloves and keeps doing little things that say he's still interested in Oklahoma. That's not OU fans' fault for hanging on to that torch. Like, you do the same in his shoes. David Stone is not going to Missouri, has never shown a sign of interest in Missouri. Why the hell would anyone think that's going to happen now? Like, that's not happening. There's a reason Williams-Nwaneri is a shocking result, because no one elite goes to Missouri. It doesn't happen. And the two guys they've gotten are from Missouri.
Right.
So stop that. Sorry.
We're sick people.
That was almost Josh Jacobs-like, but I didn't fully blow up.
Did that come from, like, Admiral 918 or something?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No. I mean, it literally, it's
They're
Missouri
just getting
fans
trolled by
like,
Missouri fans.
Yep. Just like, you won't believe what I just heard about David Stone in Missouri. And
On
like
Facebook.
eyeball emojis.
In a Facebook
guys,
group chat.
Come on. That's not going to happen.
All right, we are going to be back at it again this weekend with the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. We don't know exactly. It's a 6 o'clock start. We'll see how the timetables work on that one. Eddie and I, we always like to try and do it after the games. So hopefully that will be the case. But Eskridge Lexus coming up. We'll be back for the U40. But if you're not checking out the YouTube content, if you're not subscribed, go check it out. YouTube.com/SoonerScoop. Eddie and George doing a great job. We're going to get Josh more involved. I promise, we're going to get George's name in the intro. That is now on my list as things have slowed down a little bit now that we've got the YouTube channel going. So, I'm going to hit up the big voice guy here real soon to start getting those changed. But we appreciate everybody that's checking out the YouTube content. That's a little hiccup there. And we will continue on and just continue making it bigger and better. We'll get out of the closet at some point. We've even got new televisions. You're the one that keeps talking about it. So we appreciate everybody being a part of that and continue checking that stuff out. Go subscribe, as I said. So thanks, everybody. SoonerScoopStore.com. If you want to get some merch that you see on the YouTube channels, that's available to you as well. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on SoonerScoop.com.